Okay, let's do some new stuff. We have learned all the ways to prove triangles are congruent. We learned side, 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 angle, side, hypotenuse, leg, angle, side, angle, and angle, angle, side. Now, we are going to use that information to prove different parts of triangles are congruent. So basically, once we prove a triangle is congruent, we can use the congruent parts to say, like, all right, these two triangles are congruent, now everything about the triangle is congruent. And some examples will help clarify that. So, by definition, congruent triangles have congruent corresponding parts. So, if you can prove that two triangles are congruent, you know that their corresponding parts must be congruent as well. And this is our new reason for a lot of things. It's called corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent, which, when I learned this, we would write, our reason would be CPCTC. That's what we would put in, CPCTC. Let's try a few. Our first example, explain how you can use the given information to prove that the hang glider parts are congruent. Given angle 1 is congruent to angle 2, angle RTQ is congruent to RTS, we need to prove that QT is congruent to ST. So really the first thing we need to do is, I need to draw that diagram so I can look at it. And yes, I'm drawing the best I can. That's not so bad though. I'm going to extend this line a little bit because this is angle 1. And we know that angle 1 is congruent to, angle 2. And we know that these two angles are congruent. Okay. I'm going to add things that I know. We don't necessarily have to prove them. I just know them. So I know that because angle 1 is congruent to angle 2, angle 1 is congruent to angle 2, I know that these angles are congruent because they're supplementary. Okay, what else do I know? I know that these are congruent. I didn't label this, sorry. R, T, S, and Q. So I know all of this, so I can say that angle, angle, side, angle, angle, side. I can say that triangle QRT is congruent, that's bad, is congruent to triangle SRT because of angle, angle, side. Therefore, I know that QT is congruent to ST because of congruent parts of congruent triangles are congruent. All right, this is a you try. We'll work it together though. Explain how you can prove that angle A is congruent to angle C. I know nothing about the angles of this triangle, but I know something about two of the sides. I'm going to add my deduced information, what I can deduce from this. Let's do 3 ticks. I can say that BD is congruent to BD. I know that because it's reflexive. Okay, therefore I can say triangle ABD is congruent to triangle CBD because of side, side, side. Therefore, angle A is congruent to angle C because congruent parts of congruent triangles are congruent. Okay, another example. I left a lot of the data in here. This is really what proving triangles are congruent is useful for. I have friends that went into civil engineering. They use geometry every day. And this would be one of the reasons they would. So let's go through the example. Use the following method to find the distance across a river from point N to point B. So we're trying to find this distance. Okay, there's really no way to find that distance. I mean, you can't throw something across the river. You can't have someone on one side of the river holding a string with someone on the other side of the river. So you can use geometry to figure it out. And what you would do is you would place a stake, a long stick, at K on the near side so that NK is perpendicular to NP. So these are perpendicular. We would find the midpoint of NK, so that's the middle, which means these two pieces are congruent. Remember, midpoint. And we would locate point L so that NK is perpendicular to KL. And these are collinear. Okay, the drawing is in the next slide. Alright, so this is the drawing. Remember, that was the river. Just draw a river here. Explain how this plan allows you to find the distance. So let's explain it. Okay, because I'm going to highlight, because these two are perpendicular and these two are perpendicular, an angle N and angle K are congruent. M is the midpoint, so these are congruent. We can also say that, remember, we're going to put in the information that we know. Those angles are congruent. Sorry, that's a bad one. So I can say that triangle PNM is congruent to triangle LK. That looks like a, hold on. Oh, I can't erase it. That's an L. It looks like an angle sign. Triangle PNM is congruent to triangle LKM because of angle side angle. Therefore, we know that LK is congruent to the distance across the river. Remember, this is what we're going for. That's the distance across the river. Therefore, we can physically measure LK and know the distance across the river. Which is NP. Pretty cool. Alright, use the given information to write a plan for a proof. We probably aren't going to do this on any assessments, but it's a good thinking process. So you see what's given there, angle 1 and angle 2, and angle 3 and angle 4. We're trying to prove that BCD is congruent to DCE. We're trying to prove that. And if I look, what I know these sides are congruent, these sides are congruent. If I just look at this part of the triangle, I know that these sides are congruent and these angles are congruent, but if I want to use side angle side, I need to know if these are congruent. I don't know that yet, but what's really cool is, let me erase all this. Oh, I can't erase it all. That's a bummer. Sorry, erasing stuff. Okay. So get back to the point. I need to prove that these are congruent to use side angle side for those little triangles. What's cool is I know that these are congruent because of angle side angle. So I'm going to say triangle CDA is congruent to triangle CBA because of angle. Okay, in example 2, does it matter how far from point N, you place the stake at point K? Explain. Okay, it doesn't matter how far apart we put those two stakes because M is always going to be the midpoint. So no, it doesn't matter because no matter where you put the stakes, point M is the midpoint, making those segments congruent. This one we're actually going to do together tomorrow. It's a really, really good one, but it's sort of involved. So we'll do it as a squirp in the morning, along with your daily homework quiz, page 1, and your daily homework quiz, page 2. Okay, I left a lot of time for classwork for this because I want you guys to take your time and really understand it.